My name is JP Hunt. I'm a co-founder here at InkSoft, and today I will be your host for today's webinar. And of course, our topic at hand is how to create a winning business website for your decorated apparel / print shop business. Now, before we get underway, quick housekeeping. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A function that's in the Zoom dashboard. And what we'll do at the end of today's webinar is come back to address some of your questions. And in the event that I can't field all of the questions, we'll make sure somebody on our team follows up to make sure we provide answers to you. So again, make sure to ask your questions by submitting them to the Q&A function. Now, before we go on, I want to make sure everybody can hear my voice and can see the screen in good order. I'm awfully anxious about this because I actually conducted an hour-long webinar without broadcasting. So do me a favor, using the chat function or the Q&A function, just signal that you can in fact see the screen and hear everything in good order. That way I know we are free to get underway. All righty, folks, thank you so much. Appreciate that. All right, we are going to get underway. Let's start. All right, and I'm, by the way, I am recording today's web presentation, which means if you have a colleague or persons on your team that you want to share this insight, you'll be free to do that. So we'll follow up with everybody that's registered and attended to provide a link to the recording of today's webinar. All right, without further ado, let's get underway. So that you know you're in the right place, today's topic is how to create a winning business website. So specifically, we're going to look at the needs that decorators and print shops have that relate to a web presence and a professional website to be able to accelerate sales, drive their business, and really, and most importantly, and as you'll see from today's topic, really to leverage digital marketing. So with that said, let's go ahead and start. I'm going to kind of lay some groundwork here, and then we're actually going to get into the actual technology and how to make it happen. So let me first lay out the agenda. Today we're going to talk about what's in it for you. What's the value of a professional business website? And oftentimes, before humans will make a good decision, they need to understand clearly what's in it for me. So with that said, we'll kind of explore the business value of a proper website. A lot of this is going to be obvious, but believe it or not, I think we need to encourage folks to take some action because we continually see really poor quality websites. Now, the second point we'll talk about is what's in it for your customer. Like, why should you be concerned about, upgrading your web presence and the experience that you're providing? Because ultimately, that's what consumers want. So all the digital marketing, all the marketing that I've been consuming lately in terms of, podcasts and marketing books and insights, it's all about, the modern consumer wants experiences. They experience, they value experiences more than a lot of other things, right? Younger consumers would rather forego buying a house, and they would rather use that money to have experiences, travel the world. So that said, providing a positive buying experiences obviously is critical to continue to grow your business now and into the future. Now, third, we're going to talk about how to make it all happen, right? So it's important to establish why you ought to take action for your own business sake, the value it's going to provide to your customers, and then really, okay, great. Now with all this understanding, like how do I actually make it happen and get to market and drive these results. All right, so again, we're going to have just a few slides just to establish some context and background before we get into the details, right? It's important to agree on the facts, not the conclusions. So with that said, when we talk about what's in it for you, what's the value of having a professional business website? Well, the first thing we need to agree on is first impression. So if you're engaging with a new prospective customer for the first time, your marketing materials are going to tell a story, and that story is going to be a positive one or it's going to be a negative one, right? Now, consider this for a moment. Really, ultimately, anybody that's in the decorated apparel space or that owns a print shop or is a promotional product distributor, at the end of the day, you're really a marketer, right? You're serving a marketing function for your customers, helping them to promote their brand, their identity, their event, whatever communication is important to them. You are their partner to get that done. So that said, if you can't get your own act together and your own marketing materials leave a lot to be desired or are poor in quality, how is it that I'm supposed to trust you to do a positive job on my marketing needs, right? So think of it as sort of alignment. It's the same sort of first impression you might have if you went to a doctor's office that was run down, dilapidated, dirty. You would probably have an impression about maybe the quality of healthcare that you might receive from that participant, right? Same thing with a dirty bathroom at a restaurant, right? Well, if they maintain dirty facilities that are public, what do their private facilities look like in the kitchen, right? So the reality here is first impression is critical, and it can only be established once. And I put a little reminder here for myself. If you think 50 milliseconds, a fraction or a half of a second, the reality is when somebody sees your business card, they see your marketing materials, they see your website for the first time, immediately they're going to register an impression. Hey, this is fun. This is creative. This is simple. This is clear. This is professional and elegant. Or in the contrast, hey, this is bloated. This website looks like it's from the early 2000s. I'm out. So the reality is, that it's sort of the 5-second rule, and I think that's actually generous. A consumer is not going to invest more than 5 seconds in a website in the event that they can't understand it, it doesn't connect, or it's illogical. So consumers, their attention span is diminished, right? And look at media consumption habits. Movies aren't as long as they used to be. Short format, tweets. Consumers just expect, rapid fire information, and they want to digest little bites of information at a time. So you have a short period of time to make a high impact first impression with all of your marketing materials, but in particular, your website is obviously going to be the nexus and the hub of your digital marketing activities. So your website, for most businesses, they would argue that their website is their most important marketing resource and asset. So of course, establishing a positive first impression everywhere is important. Your website obviously being the highest in priority. All right, so a few other points as it relates to establishing a first impression, making it count, right? So there's, I think, 3 simple sort of checklists as it relates to establishing the positive first impression, and it's alignment. So think of it this way: if consumers are looking for t-shirts for their event or their organization, they have a very specific intent and purpose. Do they see alignment once they get to your website? Is it clear that you can help facilitate and provide solutions and products to their need? And I think this is the marketing challenge so many businesses have, is they try to be all things to all people. We experience this all the time, because one of the most common questions we get from our support team perspective is, how do I load the entire SanMar, Alpha Broder, SNS Activewear, Cutter and Buck product catalogs? And I think we have these idiosyncrasies in our industry that don't really comport well to end shoppers. They don't want to filter through a billion products. They want you as the expert to present product ideas and suggestions and recommendations to them, right? So at the end of the day, this is about alignment, having a clear message and making sure that you're connecting with customers that have needs and doing that in a quick way. So answer the question, do you offer what your general customers want? And are you making that clear from your marketing materials? So clarity, right? I wish I could take credit for this, but this is sort of the Donald Miller story brand framework, notion. If you confuse, you lose. And so the reality is, if a consumer, again, is engaging in any of your marketing materials, it could be a social media post, it could be your website. If your narrative, your story, your offering is unclear, well, that consumer is going to bounce, because they're not going to invest time to decrypt your messaging and your product, because they can easily go back to search results and click to the next result, who hopefully will be more clear. So the third component here, in terms of auditing your marketing materials, in particular your website, is simplicity, right? Would you argue that your website is friction? Are there dead ends? Is it, again, do I have to decrypt? Or is it a fun experience? Is it simple to digest? Is there humor involved? Is there key and clear imagery that connects and resonates with me? So alignment, clarity, and simplicity are the 3 objectives that really any business should strive for as it relates to creating a positive first impression on their web presence. Now, here's the next point we're going to make, again, before we get into the how side. I think this is probably the most important point that I can make today. So the reality is, the easiest and best in terms of return on marketing spend, return on investment, speed, access to market, access to consumers, that the absolute easiest way to grow a print business is through digital marketing. So think about pay-per-click and digital advertising through social media channels and platforms. So with these tools and with these platforms, it's very possible to find the right consumer that will align with your product offering and the solutions that you provide. And you can get your marketing message in front of those consumers more easy than ever. So with that said, knowing that digital marketing, and I don't think anybody could argue against this, digital marketing is the single greatest resource to grow sales and revenue for our space. The challenge that we've seen is I can't make the investment in Google AdWords or in promoting and boosting posts on Instagram or Facebook or whatever it might be if I don't have a great end destination to take that audience to. So think of it this way: as a consumer, if you respond to an ad, right, an online ad, it garners your attention because of the message, you're curious, and you see a call to action that says, click here to see how, or to learn more, or to get your free sample, and you click. Well, oftentimes, when you click and you go to that end destination, you can transact. You can see a message that calls you to do something, and then you can actually do that thing that you were called to do, right? So this is one of the big challenges that we see in our space is oftentimes, a print shop, because of their poor quality website that is just informational, they can't really leverage digital marketing because at the end of the day, you're going to call somebody to a website where, all you're going to do is provide information about your business. There's no way for them to actually engage and do business with you. So at the very bottom here, you can say I've underscored the notion of informational or transactional. Some businesses can get away with an informational website. If I'm an attorney, all I need to do is communicate my areas of expertise, maybe the different partners or associates that are in my law firm, maybe publicity that we're getting because of cases that we've represented, whatever it might be. That's static information. It doesn't really change. A customer wouldn't expect to go to my website and do much more than that because I'm an attorney. There's not an immersive, interactive experience, right? But take consideration of what it is that you offer. At the end of the day, you're offering the service of taking a message, a graphic, a logo, and putting it on a product, right? That's a transactional, experiential type of experience, right? A consumer might expect to be able to get a quote, see pricing, see the product options, ideate, create, see options, learn about different product, attributes. So the needs that you have are much more unique and far greater than that of a standard entrepreneur or a standard business, right? So think in terms of right now, is your website informational or is it transactional? Can people actually fulfill the thing that your advertisement is offering? Come to our website and design shirts for your group. Well, if they get to your website and they have to fill out a lead form, that might not be ideal, right? I don't want to fill out a lead form. I want to, be involved in my design process, right? So again, take stock of informational versus transactional. Now, taking this one degree further, just to make the point really clear, in terms of digital marketing and advertising tools that are available to you, think about paid digital advertising through, again, Google. So as consumers that are looking for your product and service, you can be in position to, garner their attention when they're making those searches, right? Paid social media content, even organic social media content. Think if you take a photo of a team or an organization that's wearing their garments that you printed and you can tell a backstory, you oftentimes, if you look at digital marketing, it will say, click link in bio or click to see more or, click to get your free consultation. We'll show you how we can help your team, whatever it might be, right? So even if it's just a basic social media post, not even a paid or a boosted post, you can still engage an active audience to go to your website to be able to transact with you, right? We'll talk a little bit more about what that process looks like in a moment's time. Now, next, let's talk about search and organic results. So, of course, having a professional web presence, will help you establish, your search results, right? And if you do it the proper way, you'll be able to, be a candidate when people are looking for your products and services, right? Because Google and Bing and all the other search engines, their job is to connect relevant results based on that search query, right? So let's say that somebody's looking for custom shirts, Amarillo, Texas, and because you have a proper website with proper content, you can show up naturally in search results, right? So this is kind of a long-term strategy, but it's a great strategy because if somebody does click a free listing on a search engine results string and they get to your website, that's an opportunity for you to leverage that transaction. And again, we're going to talk about what leverage means in just a moment's time. Now, the fourth and sort of final component here is virtual word of mouth marketing. We're working on a podcast and a whole separate blog series on this notion of referral marketing and what we've branded virtual word of mouth marketing, right? Every decorator that I have met in the past 10 years, you ask, what's your marketing mix? How are you driving new leads and new customers? And generally the first utterance is, well, word of mouth marketing. We rely on our clients to promote us. And that's great. And you should continue to do that. And there's ways to amplify. But think about virtual word of mouth marketing. How much more powerful is it if a coach were to take a photo of his or her players and post it to social media and thank you as the print shop and maybe give you a shout out? Well, ultimately, if a consumer responds to that message, they have to have somewhere to go to learn more about your business and be able to see what it is that you can do for them, right? So all of this culminates, and that's why we're referring to your website as your hub or your nexus for all things digital marketing and advertising. All of your ads, all of your content has to have somewhere to go to resolve that's not a dead end. All right, so the real questions here in conclusion as it relates to being your website being the nexus and hub of your marketing, is your website at present, is it enabling or hindering your sales opportunity and your sales growth? And some real questions to ask is there a clear path to purchase? So if I go to your website, is it very evident, and sort of commonsensical, select a product, upload my logo, make some decisions, check out and go? Is there a clear path or is there confusion? Are there dead ends? Contact us for your personalized quote. Are you forcing a certain path that might be friction, right? Let's talk about, another example here. Is your website in a flow state or again, is there friction? So again, we want to look for bottlenecks and we want to convert those into a non-bottleneck, knowing consumer preferences, which have changed in the past 10 years as a result of the trend towards e-commerce growth, which happens to grow year after year, right? Thanks to Amazon and thanks to other major players in the space, making and really changing the game as it relates to how consumers interact with companies and products. So lastly, the sort of last question here is convert. Can you convert a prospective customer into a profitable actual customer on your website? So think about if I go to Amazon and I do product research and I look at reviews and I really dig deep, really the logical conclusion is, well, I'm ready to purchase, or hey, I'm going to add it to my wish list and I'll consume it later, or hey, based on the information, I'm not really a candidate for this product. So the reality is, your website needs to be e-commerce enabled and put your business in a position where you can automate sales growth. You can actually let consumers consume product. Look at the structure of the name consumer, right? Can your website allow somebody to consume the product and service that you're offering? All right, let's move on. Really answer the question, why should your business invest in improving your web presence, developing a optimal business website? And the real question is, what should your business website be doing for you, right? So the first thing is automation and self-service. This is the ability to scale without any additional overhead, employees, capital necessary to grow. So obviously automation is a big deal in our industry, but typically we see automation in context of hardware, right? How to automate something that might be a tedious process. It could be, it's routine, it's predictable, it's repeatable. Well, how can we use equipment to remove payroll overhead and expense, right? To speed up a process, to have consistency and accuracy. Well, why aren't we doing that as it relates to marketing automation and website, using our website to let clients self-service and do the things that normally would be, again, friction or a bottleneck. Again, put us into a flow state. So a proper business website in our space, in our industry, should serve some automation roles and should allow an end consumer to self-service when it's convenient to them to do business with you. Now, the other major category here that a business website should offer in terms of value is lead generation. So if you have, you're engaging in digital marketing and social media marketing, content marketing, you're creating awareness and you're driving prospective customers to your website. If they bounce from your website, well, they're an anonymous visitor. And all we can do with technology is know, maybe their IP address, where they're located, how many times that IP address and that session, that visitor has made a visit to the website. But largely, they're anonymous, right? I can't take action. I can't follow up with them and engage with them. So the real key here is using your marketing efforts and then using your website to take those efforts to convert it from an anonymous visitor to somebody that has an identity, a qualified prospect, if you will. So you can engage with that prospect to get them to really understand more about your product and your offering and really engage with them to convert them to a customer, right? Now, of course, since we're talking about converting to customer, the last category here is, as I've already mentioned numerous times, is leveraging your website to generate sales. And that connects right back to automation and self-service. It relates right back to creating non-bottlenecks and removing dead ends, creating that flow state, letting consumers consume. So here, the intention is to convert a visitor, a prospective customer, into a profitable, long-term, lasting consumer that has a great experience and is willing to tell people about it, willing to leave positive reviews. And because that experience was positive, well, you're likely to get their next order, right? Maybe they have new needs and new opportunities that you can fulfill. So that's the what's in it for you component. Let's now transition quickly to what do customers want? And really think of this as beyond what do they want? What do they expect? And I think that's more of a basic question, right? So does your web presence, your website align with expectations and reality? So the reality is this: consumers expect convenience. Consumers expect to be able to self-service. Consumers expect ease and simplicity. And really, the companies that are in growth mode right now are those companies that are leveraging those things. They're making it simple to do business, to transact, right? So with that said, think about, as we've already talked about, alignment. You should take stock of, well, what do my customers expect from me? So if I'm advertising, I have a great ad that says, hey, we can decorate your team or organization or club, and we do these things. That's who you want to attract. That's the consumer that's most likely to purchase from you. What would they expect when they go to your website, right? And do an audit. In fact, we're going to be doing a series of blog posts now related to this whole topic, and there will be a pretty extensive checklist as it relates to the things that consumers might expect from you. And let me kind of give you some examples of that. So if I'm a consumer and I want decorated apparel or promotional items, I might expect when I go to a website of a provider, somebody that can align to my needs, my opportunities, I might expect some ideation. In terms of product ideas. Hey, these ideas are trending and popular. You really can't go wrong. Hey, these graphic trends are in vogue right now. You can't go wrong. So think about ideation and design. And there's a lot of different contexts for ideation and design, right? It could be, let me personalize and create something that speaks to me from your website. It could be specific to product. Next, get a quote. Hey, as a consumer, I'm ill-informed. And again, our idiosyncrasies in our industry, we can't expect consumers to understand the complexity of our pricing, setup fees, and price per color and quantity discounts and all of the nuance that a consumer doesn't care about and creates friction and complexity in the order process, right? So how can I, as a consumer, be informed about different price options? So getting a quote. And we call this serious versus curious, right? So think about anonymous visitors going to your website. Maybe they're cheap and they're never going to spend more than $5 for a garment or a product. Your website could filter them out before they even become friction and noise and a waste of your time, right? So are you curious or serious? We have awesome pricing, amazing quality, fast turn times. Your experience is going to be great. Well, we have fair and reasonable pricing to get all of those things. If you're looking for cheap, go somewhere else, right? All right, order visibility. I've placed an order with you. What's the status? What's going on? Hey, I lost my receipt. Can I reprint? Or hey, I placed an order and I loved it and I want more. So how do I initiate a reorder, right? What's that process like? Can I browse your products, right? Showrooming. Let me see what products you offer. Do you have the right sizes and size mix for my team and my club? So what does the size chart look like? What are the product attributes? Save and share to gain credibility and consensus. So maybe I, as a consumer, need to go back and get some validation from my organization, my team, my committee, my employees. Hey, team, what do you think about this for our X, Y, and Z, right? Or hey, group, what do you think about this T-shirt? Seems like it aligns with our mission. It's made of plastic recycled bottles. Of course, as a consumer, I'd expect to be able to place an order and transact, right? Maybe I don't want to call you and go through a laborious process that's going to take a lot of time just to get my order in motion, right? Lastly, sort of a main category here is learn and get help, right? So you as the expert can make suggestions, and we see a lot of sort of a new trend. In fact, one of our customers, T-shirt Elephant, has been doing an awesome job of product reviews. So actually, taking the time to say, hey, consumer, if you're looking for t-shirts, here's our recommendations. Here's why we're making these recommendations, and doing it on video, which is really easy to consume. So this kind of bucket of learn and get help could be everything about answering general questions, giving insights. It could be things like, just basic contact, making it easy for consumers if they feel like they're at a dead end or an impasse, making it easy for them to contact you to kind of pass the baton to the experts, right? So those are the things that consumers might expect when they go to your website. And now we get to shift gears to the fun part, which is talking about how to make it all happen, right? And the first thing I want to present here is there is no shortage of e-commerce and website solutions that are available. And many of them are very good options, right? If you're a standard, sort of manufacturer or entrepreneur e-retailer. The challenge with most of the platforms, at large, is they're meant to sell a final good, a hard good, a fixed final product, right? So let's say I'm an artisan soap maker. I make beef tallow soaps, right? I don't know why you've been using this as an example lately, but I could benefit from just using my Etsy store or being an Amazon merchant, right? I'm just selling a product that's ready for consumption. There is no personalization. There is no customization. There is no options. It's a final fixed product. So the reality is, if you're a decorator and you're selling embellished printed products, well, you have a lot of needs, and I've made reference to this a few times. You have a lot of idiosyncrasies that consumers don't care about, but you need to power and run your business so your orders are actually profitable. So you can let a consumer actually have an experience that's relevant and aligns with their needs, right? Putting artwork on stuff and purchasing that stuff. I know it's an oversimplification, but I wanted to kind of lay out the argument before we get underway, why InkSoft is the best suited solution in terms of, giving you a web presence that will align with what it is that your customers might expect, right? So that said, now that we're going to talk about how you get it done, you can extract the information I'm going to share with you. And of course, you can use another platform, another provider. This isn't so germane to just InkSoft, but I'll give you very specific insights in how InkSoft sort of has leveled up in terms of the techniques to convert your business website into a winning one. All right, so first and foremost, we're going to kind of work top to bottom here. I'm just going to, I sort of created this example website, and this is 100% powered by InkSoft. So I should present now, InkSoft as a software company, a part of our sales platform allows you to create online stores. So you can create online stores for any group, any club, any buying opportunity, and give your customers a branded portal, for their group that has the products for their group, right? So when we talk about automation, it's a way to go from an analog paper-based order form, clunky ways to do group ordering, and move that to a digital electronic experience. And that serves your customers well because they can shop and purchase and pay upfront and check out when it's convenient to them. But for you, you've just automated the entire process, right? You have all the information electronically organized. You've been paid up front. All the data is in position, backed up in the cloud, ready to go. So that's a great way to scale your business, right? Is to automate, be more efficient, and be more productive. Well, when I click Create New Store, one of the first orders of business you should have as a new InkSoft customer, or as an InkSoft customer, right, is create a business landing page for your own consumption, for your own needs. So with InkSoft, it's possible to configure going step by step and really dialing in, the core settings here. You can use a custom domain name, so you can leverage those domain names that you purchased ages ago, you've been sitting on, you haven't taken advantage of. The domain names that are branded, that are easy, that provide, again, value and insights into what it is that you offer. Of course, security. InkSoft offers, this is one of those important things with a winning business website that's absolutely fundamentally critical now, is making sure that every single page on your business website is secured. And this is called SSL. An SSL certificate encrypts every single page on your website to give consumers confidence. And in fact, I'll make the point here. Let me go back in the browser here. You'll notice in Chrome, there's a little padlock icon. And if I click that icon as a consumer, it says connection is secure. And so what that informs me as a consumer that, hey, my website traffic, the data that I input into a shopping cart is encrypted and safe and secure. And so if your website isn't HTTPS, S being secured, and if that padlock isn't present, consumers are now informed that, hey, I can't trust this website to transmit my data. In fact, in the latest release of Google Chrome, Chrome won't even load your website unless it's SSL secured. It gives a big, fat, scary warning. So the reality is you're not going to even get an anonymous visitor to your website because they're going to be greeted with such a scary message that they're going to exit. So every single page, not just the shopping cart, and that was the old convention, is, hey, you just need to secure the shopping cart and checkout workflow because that's where the critical data might be inserted. The reality is every page on your website must be secured, and InkSoft offers that for free. Or you can buy a branded SSL certificate. So there's different products that provide different value. Some of the premium SSL certificates will have a green bar that displays. Some come with cyber insurance in the event that you're ever hacked or there's ever a fraudulent transaction. So there's actually value for your business. So there's just different levels and different providers and different quality of SSL certificates. But at baseline, the free one that we furnish will get the job done. One last thing about an SSL certificate, and the reason I think it's so important is we talk about first impression, right? So obviously that's an important factor in establishing a first impression. But as it even relates to search engine optimization, you will be penalized if your website is not secure. So Google is now considering website security and giving it preference and priority, and will demote those websites that aren't secure. So again, you must prioritize security on your website from first impression, consumer confidence, search engine optimization. It's just a fundamental, right? And InkSoft can do that for you. All right, so since we're talking about first impression, it's about putting your brand on display, right? So obviously most websites, the very top header of a website, you're going to display your logo and your identity. Now, InkSoft does something unique as it relates to your logo and your identity. So when you set up your InkSoft website, you can upload your logo and you can upload your store icon, otherwise known as a favicon. And here we give an example of what that looks like. So in a website browser, in the little browser bar where the URL displays, you can have a little branded icon so consumers know that they happen to be on your website. So one of the beautiful things here is you can actually upload a vector file to represent your logo. So no matter what device a consumer happens to be on, every year as new devices come out, pixel density gets increased, which means that if you have a raster logo, consumers are going to see a blurry, defective logo, and obviously that's not going to create that first, positive first impression. So what InkSoft has done is we allow you to upload your vector logo, and on the storefront or on your actual website, your vector logo will persist and display. So I'm working on a 27-inch monitor right now. If I'm working on a small Retina device or a large Retina device, the quality of that logo will always be intact. So of course, for any business, any brand, it's about perpetuating your identity. Of course, inserting your logo on your website is critical. Now, I want to make the point with InkSoft, of course, our online store platform gives you very simple controls to build your website. So as we talk about how do you make a winning professional business website, it shouldn't be laborious. It shouldn't be expensive. It's something that you should be able to do and make modifications without paying somebody or being beholden to somebody. So in the day of old, it would be commissioning a website designer to design a website. In the value chain, there would then be the website coder, somebody that would actually take the design and slice it and convert it into HTML, CSS, JavaScript to make it programmatic, right? And that was a huge cost, right? And it still is. So that traditional value stream has been sort of disrupted now because there's so many platforms that allow you to build a website, a professional web presence, right? And that's great, for many instances. WordPress powers 1 out of every 3 websites in the world and is an amazing platform, but it doesn't have the industry-specific nuance that, of course, we need to be able to transact. So again, the ability to sort of quickly and dynamically, experiment with different placements of a logo or an identity. What does my identity look like centered? Hey, maybe I really want to put my brand, on point and really give it emphasis. So I'm going to center it, but I'm also going to demote the navigation right below. So really, this is just about visual website editing in a very simple way, making key decisions about the information that ought to display in my website, right? And so we want to make sure we don't have, again, friction. We have a flow state. So maybe I don't want to display certain things. You have the ability to, again, make key decisions here. So here's one example. You can see store links. I can display store links or disable. I can choose which store links display if I do enable store links. So imagine this, using your business website, your Nexus, your hub, to display all of the different online stores you're offering for clients. So letting consumers easily and quickly navigate to their group store to be able to consume products for, for their group or their club or their organization. This is also a great way to, I think, gain some credibility. Oftentimes, an InkSoft user will say, well, hey, I don't want to expose my customers, my competitors. The reality is, you should be more confident in your customer relationships. You're servicing them well, you're communicating with them, you're giving them great value. You shouldn't be nervous that they're in a position to leave you, right? Otherwise, I think that signals insecurities that need to be resolved through new business practices. But the reality is this: if I'm a consumer and I see that, hey, in my community, you're serving all these different people that I know, I have relationships with, that's a trust factor, that's credibility. Other people have trusted you to do the thing that I'm seeking out. So think oftentimes one of the sort of the factors and the functions your business website should provide to you is social proof, credibility, and that can be done through testimonials, which we'll talk about as we progress. It can be done by putting your brand, front and center. So with that said, I'm not going to save my changes here, but notice this, there's a floating social media bar here, right? At the very bottom of the website, there might be social media links that let me go on to prospect and kind of get, validate your business on different social media channels. So as a consumer, and I do this, and I'm sure you do this as well, consider this for a moment. If you're thinking about doing business with an organization or a new company, it could be a vendor to your business, or it could just be unrelated to our industry altogether. How many of you will go and go to their website, maybe click on to their social media channels just to see what they're all about, right? What is the story they're telling? Oftentimes there's even a judgment, how many followers do they have? And if you have 12 followers on your social media channel, well, that could be problematic. That could signal that you're a new business. Maybe you're not popular. So with that said, your social media presence can also validate and build credibility and perpetuate your story, your brand, your message. And so contextually, putting your social media channels on point and on display in the footer of your website, on your website at large, can obviously drive social proof, trust, credibility. All of those things are important to driving value from a shopper perspective. All right, so as we make our way down, we've talked about sort of the header. One thing I want to point out, you'll notice at the very top, I have this sort of sticky, what we call promo bar. And this is an optional function in InkSoft. So think about those times where you want to promote something, right? You want to give instruction, context, guidance, insights. A promo bar is an excellent way to do that because it's the first thing that will be visible on a website. It will be sticky, meaning as I scroll through the website, it remains persistent at the very top. So think about key messaging that's short and simple that is really appeals to maybe all of your website visitors. So think about driving marketing engagement and maybe some of your marketing, your promotional campaigns like, hey, listen, we're approaching hoodie weather and we're celebrating. We're doing a special savings opportunity on our favorite hooded sweatshirt. Click here to learn more, or click here to customize yours now. So really think about using this as a way to really drive attention and then drive an action, right? So you can, again, create that state where your website can convert. You can drive a marketing campaign from click of an ad all the way down to conversion from that ad. All right, so sort of relatedly, as we're talking about marketing and conversion and messaging, the next thing I want to kind of present here is what we call the hero space. And this is typical architecture of a website, a header of a website with the logo and navigation. The next thing you typically see is sort of a hero space. And really what a hero space is your main messaging. And really think of this as above the fold. That's another sort of jargon in website design. Above the fold would mean anything that's present above the bottom of the browser before I have to scroll. So what's getting cut off and what is visible when I first visit the website. So of course, above the fold, as we talked about making that first impression, we talked about 50 milliseconds. You really have a few seconds to really establish, again, context, alignment, value, and your hero space is your best opportunity to make that a reality, right? So using high impact visuals that communicate a story. In fact, consumers and the human mind registers visual cues faster than any other cues, auditory, spoken, written. So that said, high impact visual that can connect to the message, right? I think one of the most important things a decorator can do, a print shop can do to better their marketing is to take a copywriting course, learn how to write high impact call to actions, how to get your marketing message simplified so you're not confusing and losing customers. You're really helping to tell your story, create differentiation, establish your value, and get folks to commit. So that's at Hero Space. You can see the architecture here, simple messaging to resonate. You can see I have a button to drive, maybe navigation or action. Start now, click here, get underway, browse now. And you can see that high impact visual. So that's sort of the trifecta of a hero space. Now, I will call out that it's important to make sure that these are eye catching. You're reflecting your true identity. I would say in many instances, avoid using fake. So this probably isn't the best example because we threw this together really quickly, but that's obviously fake stock photography. But think about composing really great lifestyle photography that actually connects and resonates. You might even feature one of your customers to be very human. So we also want to think about being really careful about too much. So it is possible to have different rotating images here, right? You could have 8 different banners that rotate or you can click through. But the reality here is, the more, isn't necessarily better, right? So it's going to slow your website down because there's just a lot to load. It could cause confusion or too much noise and complexity. So really focus on main messaging and main actions here. Be judicious with how many of these you employ. And I think the secret sauce is 1 to 3, somewhere in that mix. Of course, 1 is critical. All right, so since we're talking about messaging and driving action, I want to talk about something on websites that's critical, and that's call to action. And that harkens back to the notion of maybe taking a copyright course. There's so many amazing ways to learn simple marketing approaches, a simple framework, a simple thought process. Udemy is a great resource, mind you, for really low cost, $10, $15 courses on how to write amazing website copy, how to write, amazing call to actions, right? So get in the habit of maybe once a month, once a week, consuming one of these simple courses, learning a new topic and technique that's going to get you, help you, make your website winning. So with that said, call to action, let's talk about that for a moment time. So a CTA is things like getting your customer to take a specific action or go down a specific path, a flow state, right? So think about learn more, shop now, get started, speak with one of our experts, start designing now. It's giving instruction and giving a reason for somebody to do something. And of course, CTAs will manifest on an advertisement, right? So if you have a digital ad that's displaying somewhere or even a flyer, you're asking a customer to do something and you're giving them a reason why they ought to do that. So you can see here, group ordering done right, personalized products for any event or occasion. Start designing now. That's a clear CTA to do something, right? And I would expect if I click start designing now to be able to start designing now. If I click start, browse our trending products, well, you might expect to browse trending products, right? So think of your website, think about the main things you want out of customers. And again, I think this kind of relates back to really understanding what consumers expect and want from you. So if you know that, hey, there's 3 major buckets of things that people expect from us. They expect to browse products, to get connection. They expect to be able to personalize online. Or maybe thirdly, they expect to leverage us as their expert, as their partner, and we'll do it for you. So you should have maybe 3 CTAs that are prioritized. What's the most important thing we want somebody to do? Second most important, and third most important, and structure that on your website where it's ordered. The hero space might have that first priority CTA. Maybe next is the second CTA, shop our top products. Here's our curated, trending, fashionable products that our clients love. Maybe that's the second CTA. And of course, maybe the third is, hey, we have different options and here's the ways we can help you. So you could call that out using custom content and you could use CTAs to drive that. All right, so let's talk about custom content since I happen to be scrolled down to this part of the website now. So custom content is allowing you to be much more than just an order taker. It allows you to be the marketing solution provider, right? So as the deliverer of premium branded merchandise and giveaway apparel and printed goods, you can really connect and resonate in terms of how we can help you, promote your brand, promote your business. Here's the things that we're able to do for you. And custom content is an awesome way to make, to communicate your expertise, your differentiation, the value that you furnish, rather than just being, again, the order taker, right? So think about using custom content to embed a video. Finally produce an awesome YouTube video that you can embed on your website that really tells your story in 1 to 2 minutes, right? It talks about your origin story, showcases customers that are successful and happy. You talk about the value and what is it you can help people with. That's all things that custom content can help, in terms of perpetuate your story, your narrative, and help you communicate at large, right? And of course, video is an awesome way to do that. If you haven't already commissioned somebody, a videographer in your area, and there's plenty of ways to find, really talented folks that are low cost. So think about, community college or even a college student who happens to have grown up with, digital video and digital video production. Think about commissioning somebody to actually help produce a video that tells your story and really showcases your value. And your website is a perfect way to put that on display. So as you navigate websites, take stock of how many websites, how many brands in our space, outside of our space, that use video as a way to tell the story and inform consumers. And so think about how you can mobilize video on your website to achieve that. But beyond custom content, things like testimonials, is a great opportunity to leverage custom content to build, again, that social proof, to build credibility, to establish that trust factor. Think about lifestyle images. This is one thing that I think our industry at large can really improve upon, is getting away from showing the sausage making process, right? In fact, this is one of those audits. Go back to your social media and look at the last, let's say 20 posts. How many of those posts are of the automatic press operating or of a production process or something that's, again, an idiosyncrasy, compared to how many photos are exposing smiling customers holding up their printed product or wearing their printed product in a lifestyle environment or setting. So think of it as if alignment and expectations. I, as a consumer, if I'm going to trust you to brand my organization, what have you done for other people that look like me? And what was the result? What was the story, right? Because I don't really care about a squeegee moving up, and I don't really care about ink mixing. It's just, that's the sausage making. In fact, we did a podcast on this called Operational Transparency. And there is a time to give exposure into the process, right? But it certainly is not the majority of social posts or content. It's the minority. So let's move along now to something that I think is absolutely critical to a winning business website in our space, and that is self-service. So we talked about earlier in the presentation, right, the big buckets of things that a customer would expect to be able to do from your website, right? They'd expect to be able to browse products and see product attributes. They'd expect to be able to log into an account to see their order status, initiate a reorder, to leverage maybe a design they created and saved and they're now ready to transact with, right? So these are just basic essential things, right, that I can do on Amazon, I can do from any e-commerce provider. So, beyond browsing products, one of the biggest, specific to browsing products, here's another point of audit, right? If your customers have to browse a Sanmar catalog, have to come into your retail space to look through an Alpha Broder catalog, that's friction, right? That's a bottleneck. So how can you expose your products on your website for showrooming to let clients browse your digital product display and product catalog? One of the tips that I'm going to inject immediately here is curation. And this is something that we can't talk enough about because we continue to see the mistake. And I can tell you, promotional product distributors are the worst at making this mistake because their idiosyncrasies are, I have to have every single product for every single occasion because I don't want to miss out on a sales opportunity, right? And the expectation is that customers are going to want to filter through a billion different products to be able to find the right one. But the real reality is, your customers expect you as the expert to recommend the right product mix, right? The right assortment. And of course, you have that expertise because you know what supplier has great inventory levels, what products print well, what people love and like in a product, fit, fashion, style, attributes. So it's your job to curate products. And of course, when your clients go to your website and they click shop and they have the ability to browse by different category, do not overwhelm them with 1.5 billion options. Good, better, best, varying price points, varying attributes. Cover the core. And I would challenge you to look at your financials, look at your historical sales, and you'll find the 80-20 rule will be present. 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of the products that you will ever offer. And I can tell you this is the same from suppliers. Of all the different SKUs and inventory that's available from Alpha Broder or Samar, a vast majority of Samar's revenue comes from 20% of the products, right? The all-purpose, commonly used items. So think about merchandising and putting those on, on brand, in position on your website, right? And of course, consumers would expect to be able to see different product attributes, right? So different colors that a garment might be available in. And so as I click to really study or understand a product, again, I'm going to expect to see the size chart, maybe the description of the product, the different colors that are available. And hey, since we're talking about self-service, maybe my intention is to choose a garment and then to be able to decorate. And this is the secret sauce with InkSoft is our online designer, where a consumer can choose a product that connects with them, that aligns with their expectation and needs. And they, of course, can upload their identity, or they can leverage all the graphic stock content that comes in InkSoft, where they can create and compose an idea and a design that matches their needs. So really, the design studio is part of the self-service workflow. Ideate and create. For the customers of yours, and I know this isn't 100%, there's different buckets or personas of customers, right? There's those that expect you to do all the labor. Hey, we're doing a golf tournament for our corporation. We need to do giveaways, do prizes, have everybody uniform, do it for me, give me ideas. But think about the younger consumers and maybe modern consumers that want to be a participant in their brand, their identity, their message, their graphic. They grew up technology enabled, so they're not afraid of an interface where they can actually do it themselves, right? So that the online designer certainly helps to service that particular group. Now, one thing I want to flag right now that I think is an important, since we're talking about digital marketing and advertising, and we talk about content marketing, right? So rather than social media posts of the sausage making process, right? The printing, whatever it might be, think about putting into your marketing mix. Maybe you create 12 really cool designs every single month. They're on message, they're on season, they're on trend, they connect with the local community or whatever it might be. For example, if you live in parts of the country where ice fishing is a big deal, maybe you want to commemorate ice fishing season, right? So every community, I don't care where you live, there's always these special nuanced things that people connect with. They want to wear a branded product that helps, to identify them as part of that tribe. So inside of InkSoft, you have the ability to actually build your own design templates, upload your own illustrations and clip art, and think about using that in your marketing content to constantly be showcasing really cool imprints and graphics and ideas and connecting that right back to your website. Hey, if you love this graphic and you connect with this tribe, click here to buy yours or design now or whatever it might be. And I'm going to actually go back in time here. Let's leave the design studio, but one of the other things I want to point out is, InkSoft as an e-commerce platform for your business will let you transact blank products, right? So you have the ability to let a consumer create by choosing a blank good and then decorating it through the design studio and checking out and making payment or getting a quote. But the other category of product is what we call a pre-decorated product. So a pre-decorated product is for those instances where, the identity shouldn't change, meaning, hey, this company wants all of their employees to have the same identity, the same branded, outfitted product, right? And in fact, uniform, this just kind of connected with me not too long ago. Think about just the name of uniform. So school uniforms, company uniforms. The reality is uniformity in appearance, right? So everybody has the same branding and the same exact position and placement. So pre-decorated products allow you to also sell fixed final goods. So if there's a community event or organization or turkey trot and there's an identity that everybody should have access to, well, you can sell a pre-decorated product. It already has the branding and logo on it. A consumer can just choose their size and color and then check out and make payment, right? So that kind of fills that category in terms of self-service. So let's move on now to sort of I want to create enough space and time. We're approaching the 5-minute mark. I want to talk about sort of the final sort of major component to a winning business website. And I know we've covered a lot of ground here. And believe me, what we're going to do next is explode this into more detailed parts and pieces. We could do an hour just on call to action. We could do an hour simply on lead generation, using your website to actually attract, qualified leads so you can follow up and take action. And again, that's a function that your business website should perform, is lead generation, as we discussed earlier. The last component I want to talk about before we move on is the footer of your website. And I think this tends to be neglected or overlooked, but the data informs us that a footer of your website is critical, to improving experience and, again, credibility. So the reality, research tells us that some brands have experienced up to a 50% increase in conversion when they optimize their website footer, and using specific goals in mind to do that. So think about, again, as we explored earlier, like, hey, I want to check out this company's social media presence and see the story they're telling and see the reaction they're getting from their community. So I can click to view those social media channels. Hey, where is this business located? I want to order from a local company because I want to pick up to avoid shipping, so they can get context in terms of where your retail location is. Navigation, simplifying, again, no bottlenecks. Navigation should indicate, hey, shop now or create, or visit the homepage. Contact, making it simple for folks to communicate and contact you, right? Now, the other thing that's really important here that oftentimes gets neglected, it might not be the most glamorous thing from your website, but something that's really important from a liability perspective, or rather, mitigating liability. Credit card providers absolutely require that you have terms and conditions, that relate to your shipping policies, your refund policies, cancellation policies. California, by state law, mandates privacy policies. What is it that you're doing with private information, right? So terms, conditions, privacy policies, shipping, refund policies are all things that should be displayed on your website, and InkSoft makes that a reality, right? So we've heard of horror stories of, somebody, a credit card company freezing assets, won't release any monies because, the terms of your website didn't specify, all the details, right? So you're not in compliance. So be proactive, and you can get all of that stuff in good order by, again, specifying your, terms of use and all of the other things that are important. So under store policies in InkSoft, we give you generic messaging, but here you can personalize messaging. So again, privacy policy, you can personalize. Terms of use, everybody has, of course, different policies. You can, indicate those here. Packing slip footer. So when you get orders from InkSoft, and InkSoft generates a packing slip for each individual order, think about perpetuating some additional messaging. In fact, this was a product experience I had just last night, but I ordered a artisan's shave soap, right? It sounds kind of nerdy, but an artisan's shave soap, and on the packing slip, believe it or not, it was a reconciliation of what was in the packaging, but literally they used the reverse side of the packaging as it was a printed door hanger that you could cut off and put on a bathroom door that basically says, hey, dad's shaving right now, do not disturb, right? And it was cute, it was on brand, it was on message, but they took an opportunity to take what is normally something that you pitch in the recycling bin, right? It's just a receipt. And they, gave me an experience that I'll remember, that I thought was cute and clever. I won't use it, but nonetheless, it got some mind share, it anchored in the mind. So how can you convert a packing slip into a marketing materials, right? Can you add a special discount for the next purchase? Can you perpetuate virtual word of mouth marketing and referral marketing by, giving consumers a reason to promote you, right? There's a whole slew of things you can do on a packing slip. All right, so again, this category, this can be endless in terms of how to use InkSoft to, again, build your business website. But the reality is, as a software platform, as a sales platform made for this industry, it is possible to use InkSoft to be your main anchor business website. They will provide all the transactional self-service automation, lead generation, and sales conversion tools that you'll need to successfully leverage digital marketing to grow your business. So if you hired any consultant, a business coach that knows anything about digital marketing and about growing a modern business, a great deal of concentration would be, getting your product story simplified so it's clear, leveraging the snot out of digital marketing and advertising, and getting an e-commerce business website that is capable of leveraging, return on marketing spend, return on investment to help grow your business. This is the fastest, simplest way to scale. There is no better way. All right, so I managed to end 33 seconds late. I wanted this to be an hour-long webinar, But I do want to hold back for your questions. So what we're going to do is kind of pivot. Using the Zoom control panel, you can type in a question in the Q&A function. And what I'll do is I'll come back and I'll field maybe 2 to 3 questions here. And in the event I don't have the ability to field your question, I will have somebody on my team reach out to you to give you specific answers. Now, in the event that you're not already an InkSoft user, I know we have a mix of folks attending today, and you know, obviously are attracted to what you've heard today and you want to take the next step. My advice would be to reach out to an InkSoft expert, and we can do a personalized presentation where we can show you way more about the InkSoft platform and the different tools that are available, and give you some specific insights into how InkSoft can serve your business needs from a sales platform perspective.